My record button. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Once again, we've had some people logged in as early as 10 o'clock that were anticipating this session. So that would be PSJA. I see him clapping up there. Miss Sonia Arce, thank you for all your hard work getting everybody logged in and ready to go. While we're not here, Miss Irma, they were showing trophies back and forth with Wesco down here. It got pretty competitive. It was really funny. But anyway, okay, let me introduce myself. I'm Chris McKinney. I'm a STEM specialist, education specialist here at Region 1 Gear Up. I'm joining you from my office in Edinburgh, Texas. So I welcome you from all across the valley. We are very excited to be covering the topic of criminal justice today. And that we haven't done it, and so far this grant, this first time in 4 years that we've had mentors with us. Today we had first session a Border Patrol retiree, and we have another representative that's going to talk about Border Patrol and all things related to it. And then just a quick promo for 1 o'clock, we're going to have U.S. Marshal's office, and at 2:30, if you can join us for one of those two, we have a DPS recruiter. That's a trooper, Corporal Maria Martinez. So we're really excited with all 4 sessions today. I am recording this session, so there are some classrooms that, for whatever reason, some students couldn't make this session or they are in another class. We will have this recording available for a later date if they would like to view it. But let's go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Irma Chapa. Once again, I thank you for being with us. And she's class, just to let you know, if you can take some notes, you have something to write with, she's going to share quite a few stories, and you might kind of get sidetracked and forget maybe one of the questions you had. So if you maybe jot that down on paper later at the end of the session when she's going to give opportunities for question and answer, that'll be a great time to then pose those questions. And I'll give you more details as we get to that segment. But I'll turn it over to Ms. Chapa. So take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. McKinney. And good morning to everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. I guess you can say tuning in, right? Even though it's not TV, but this is really cool. This is definitely something new for me. I've not done this before. So as I'm telling you a little bit about my background, if you have a question, I'll try to make sure to look at all the screens and answer whatever questions you may have, because I want this to be free flowing. And if you have something that pops into your mind, then absolutely feel free to ask away. I work for the Border Patrol. I have been in the Valley about 20 years now. I'm not from here, but I've been very fortunate to have absolutely wonderful jobs. I went to Sam Houston State University, and after I left Huntsville, I got my first internship at a company in Dallas, Texas. I only stayed there for 3 months, though. Dallas is a wonderful city, but way too big for me, although now I think maybe I'm ready to go back. Growing up in a small southeast Texas town called Woodville, there wasn't much to do. So I would relate it to maybe La Feria, or, I mean, we really had a really small sized Walmart, a Sonic, and a Dairy Queen, and that was it. That was it. The population there was 2,800, and we were at the time the only Hispanic family. So it was very difficult for me. I learned at a very young age the difference between races and prejudice, and it was tough because being the only Hispanic, you can imagine the culture shock that was for me. Then my first big TV job was here with Channel 4, and I come here and there's so many Hispanics and so much to learn, and it was awesome because I felt more at home. There was another gal that worked at the same time that I did named Irma, and she always went by Irma Garza. And it's funny because she's now the public information officer for the city of Edinburgh. And I went by Irma Chapa. So I was even criticized in the local paper when I first moved here for not saying Irma. And, I've gone through a lot here, but I think every single situation in your life that you're going to go through makes you a stronger person. So come on in, Omar. This is Omar. He is our public information officer for the Border Patrol. And
hello.
You're talking to throughout the Rio Grande Valley.
Nice.
And so there may be people that walk in and out of the office because this is a busy shop. And I just wanted to take the time to introduce you to him. He has his master's degree. He's from Brownsville. He became an agent 17 years ago and works here in the communications division, which we'll get to. So back to the upbringing. Do you have something I need to sign? Oh, these are the numbers.
Stats in case you need it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Omar.
You're welcome.
So, back to Woodville. What I was telling you is telling you a story because growing up in Woodville, you were either Anglo or you were African American, and that's it. So my first day of school, it's one of my favorite stories, so I hope you enjoy it. I felt a little bit out of place and probably wasn't getting the education that I needed in the Houston schools, which is why mom and dad wanted to move away. And like, for instance, I didn't know the difference between sharing, and chair. So I would say, one for the other. And it's embarrassing when you do that. I mean, we even correct our grandparents, right? And so I want to say it was the first or second day of school, this African-American gal walks up to me and she said, "Girl, what is you? You ain't white and you ain't black." And I said, "No, I'm Hispanic," and didn't really know at the time what she was getting to. So I went home, cried about it, told my mom, "This girl's picking on me, blah, blah, blah." And the next day, that evening, mom explained everything to me about race and how we shouldn't be ashamed of who we are and how we were brought up. So the next day I went back to school and I told Tanisha, that's her name, and we're still friends today. I said, "Hey, Tanisha, I know what I am." And I explained to her our traditions and so forth. And it's always left that mark in my life that at that point in time in life, at 9 years old, we all are very different and we will continue to be. But it doesn't matter what color we are so long as we're living the life that we want to live and do the right things, which leads me to where I am today. And a new program that the Border Patrol has called Operation Detour. A couple of years ago, we kicked off Operation Detour in our schools, and we're on a mission now to get that message back into the schools. And the underlying theme is that if you get involved with drug smuggling or human smuggling, you're going to go to prison. And it doesn't matter how old you are, because at the current time, there are cartels that are recruiting teenagers throughout the valley to do their dirty work because they're going to tell teens that they're not going to go to prison. So we interviewed 2 teens who are sitting in jail cells because of the fact that they took the wrong road in their life. And we hope to go to all of your schools as well. As a matter of fact, we kicked it off in Edinburgh last week, and we plan to go to every single school in the valley as we did in 2010. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about my job and how I got to where I am. Growing up in Woodville, there wasn't much to do, as I mentioned earlier, and a lot of the kids chose either Sam Houston State University or Stephen F. Austin, and a lot of the smarter kids chose either UT or A&M, but we had a lot of kids who were going to these big name schools, and we always do. It's great because it's a small community. After college, as I mentioned, I did an internship in Dallas, landed my first TV job in Corpus, and then got here in 1994. Started working for Channel 4, spent some time there, became the communications director at Valley Baptist for 3 years in Harlingen, then worked for Univision and Fox, starting the 9 o'clock newscast, and fortunately met a lot of Border Patrol agents within that position who told me about a job opening with the Border Patrol in 2009. I started working here, and within the 5 years that I've been here, managed to land an outstanding position. Were any of you on the line earlier with Henry Mendiola? Anyone? This is a whole group, a new group? Nobody heard Henry this morning? No? Okay. So the guy who was on earlier this morning used to be my boss, and he decided to retire, and that opened up a world of opportunity here for me, because usually at the Border Patrol, an agent would sit in this chair and lead the communications division. But things started to change. We had a crisis this summer with all of the children who were coming over from Honduras and El Salvador, and it was a time for this shop to shine. And we had congressmen, legislators from all throughout the United States that were coming here, and we did such a great job that they decided, hey, maybe we let a civilian lead that shop. So for the first time in many, many years, I've been given an opportunity to lead the comms division here for Border Patrol. And I couldn't be more proud of the position that I'm holding now. But there is a lot of responsibility, and it can be difficult at times. It's hard to deal with the media and the questions at times, but we manage and we have fun. I think one of the biggest things I can tell you about work is that if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong within your job. So that's something you need to think about right now as you grow older and you decide what career path you want to take. because you have to have a good time at what you do. Do you guys have any questions for me about what we do here? Wow, I can't believe no one has any questions. I mean, I could talk to you for a long, long time and tell you stories about everything under the sun, but I figured you'd have some questions geared towards Border Patrol or the jobs that we do. No one?
We were wondering what office are you based off of right now?
Who's asking the question? Over here? This
Yeah.
class? Oh.
That guy over there.
This one.
Okay, Weslaco
Yes.
High School.
Yeah, we were wondering what office you're based off of right now.
So I work
What
in
city?
Edinburgh.
Okay,
I
Edinburgh.
work in Edinburgh, and this is headquarters. So we oversee, our chief and our deputy here at headquarters oversee Rio Grande City Station, McAllen Border Patrol Station, Weslaco, Brownsville, Fort Brown, Harlingen, Kingsville, Falfurrias, and Corpus. So we have 9 stations, plus we have an intelligence division. So we have about 3,500 agents that report to the chief and deputy here.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, PSJ North, they unmuted their microphone. Do you have a question?
Yes, one of my students wanted to know what is your degree in, ma'am?
I have a degree in radio, TV, and film, and a minor. I was 3 hours shy of staying and getting a minor in criminal justice, but I do have a minor in Spanish.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
How closely do you work with the Mexican government, the Mexican officials in certain matters? For example, like the drug trading and, like, for example, all the crimes that have been committed near the border. Like, how closely do you work with them in the relationship that you have? Like, is it a very, very close relationship, or is it very, very hard and difficult to work with them on those matters?
I would say that the relationships are getting stronger. Will they ever be so strong that we call each other every day? Probably not. I think that you've seen a lot within the past couple of years, and granted, I've been here 5 years, but over the last year, I would say that the Mexican consulate, the Honduran consulate, El Salvador consulate, they're all opening up offices, say in downtown McAllen, where they have their offices and they have a liaison that works directly with us. So I'll just put it into perspective for you. Anytime that the Border Patrol apprehends a citizen from another country, we immediately call the consulate, and they have access to start talking to them about their journey here and how they got here and what they were fleeing from, what they encountered along the way. And so that's one aspect. And then we deal with the Mexican government in regard to the smuggling aspects. So you have the human interest side, where the consulates work that side of it. And then you have the Mexican government that has the federales, and then the local police that we work with. And our intelligence division handles a lot of that. Relations are good, and they're sometimes not so good. What we're starting new is it's a program called, let me see, I have an email here. Let me pull it up. I just saw it this morning. Here it is. Anytime that we have, for instance, I'll just give you an example. It says this morning, on November 12th, representatives of the government of Mexico seized 58 bundles of marijuana weighing approximately 500 pounds with an estimated value of blah, blah, blah. Just for your interest, it's $440,000. And it happened in Cuevitas, Texas, near Rio Grande City. So when this happens, we immediately call the government of Mexico. And here's why. Say you're on the river, and if those of you who grew up here on the river, and the bundles end up that they're on the river, they use these rafts, they have the drugs, they know they're there. So immediately our agents call the other side, and so they try to interdict on the other side. What they do with the drugs on that side at that time, we don't know. But we're learning more every day. And we did get a call the other day to say, hey, why don't you guys come and see what we're doing? Come over and help us burn the marijuana that we, caught the past 6 months. We haven't gone yet, but those are some of the things that we're trying to improve those relations and really see, are they following through? Are they doing everything we're doing to enforce law enforcement on that side? we've had tons of officials come through, government officials from Mexico, and say, we need to build a border patrol over there. We need to have more enforcement. We need a National Guard and so forth. But I think for years and years, Mexico has had such a difficult time doing so that the trust issue is, and because you have so much violence that happens, people just don't believe that they're doing as much as they can. I think there's good people and there's bad people. And as far as the Border Patrol is concerned, we just try to keep that violence away from getting into you and our communities.
What about American citizens that are caught at our border? What happens to them, and how are they affected? And what does the Border Patrol agency here in America do to help them?
To help American citizens?
Yes, like for example, if they're caught with drug possession coming back from Mexico, for example, and they have close ties to like the corruption over there or whatnot. Like they have association over there, but they're still American citizens and they're smuggling drugs through here. Is there how's the relationship with that between not them necessarily blaming us, but for them to see that an American is the one who is actually trying to do this, and that it's not just the Mexican citizens who are doing this?
Well, I think that, anytime an American citizen gets involved, they're going to face the repercussions. However, you have to remember that the Border Patrol is here to catch whatever. We seize drugs and we apprehend people. We apprehend people who are here illegally, who didn't, because there's a process to get into the country. We work with partners like the Texas DPS, your local police departments, and they're the ones who are more focused on arresting and apprehending U.S. citizens. So when you talk about what repercussions those people face, that's all going to depend on the AUSA and the district attorney. So that question specifically would be for them, because once the Border Patrol apprehends somebody, we can't hold an American citizen. We can't, because that's not our job as Border Patrol agents. But we definitely can hold them for a moment until DPS gets here, or till, Mission PD or whatever border city that crime is being committed in, and then they decide what, punishment that person is going to have. It is a long process, but there are tons of people who get caught. In regard to the folks that we focused on in this Operation Detour, like, I don't know if anybody's on from La Jolla. Is anybody on from La Jolla?
Yeah, yeah, they're not one of our Gear Up schools.
Okay, so perhaps they should be. This kid, J.R. Rodriguez, who you'll see in the video, he had a 7th grade education, only went to 7th grade. He was smuggling, and he's illegal, but he was going to our schools, and he was smuggling people. So he'd already done it, 4 or 5 times, he said. And then on the 5th time, he gets caught. The day that he got caught, and I'm sure some of you watched it on the news, 9 people died because he started fleeing from the Border Patrol. Now, he was illegal. He was born in the United States. His parents are illegal. So he's sitting in a jail cell, American citizen, right? Born here in the United States. But again, that's when the sheriff's department comes in and arrests him and takes him to jail. He fled the scene. So, in most of these cases, if they cause a devastating accident where 9 people died, like in his case, then, yeah, those repercussions are he's sitting in a jail cell going to prison for 40 years, People think that, well, at least I think, that people sometimes believe that they're not going to get caught, or maybe they'll only do it 3 or 4 times, get the money that they need, and then they're out. And perhaps that is the case for some. But I was told a story just last night of one guy who I know had no idea this was in his background, who was convinced by a friend of his to take some money up to Dallas. And then when he took that money, he was going to get another package and bring money back. I know this guy. I didn't even know that he had this on his background. And he was caught with $40,000 or $50,000, got pulled over for speeding. And of course, the money was marked by a cartel. And so then he went to prison for, 2-3 years. Had no idea. And I won't share his name or anything because I didn't even know that had happened to him. But I think sometimes people don't tell you, and you might know somebody that it happened to, and they made their mistake. They don't talk about it anymore, and they move on. The kid that started Detour, the whole idea for Detour in Del Rio, he was 18 and he got caught. It was his first time to smuggle drugs and didn't complete the mission because he got caught at the bridge in Del Rio, and he's out of prison now, but he's having a hard time getting back into college. He's working, but he lost track. After high school, he just kind of took the wrong path, and he hasn't been able to get back on track. And to me, that's just really sad. I mean, there's so much opportunity, so many scholarships, so many grants that we should be looking into rather than even talking to people who are trying to convince us to do other things.
I also have another question. I read an article just this morning on some new technology that the Border Patrol is using, for example, like the unmanned drones.
Yeah, the aerostats.
Yeah, how effectively are those being used at the moment?
Actually, our partners I'm sorry?
Are they working very, very well?
Well, I think so. And it's funny that you mentioned that because when we went to interview that kid that I told you about, JR, who's sitting in prison at the Hidalgo County jail right now, he said they're going to keep coming. The cartels are going to keep coming. He goes, pero miss, ¿sabes que esos balloons que tienen, everybody in here in the prison, they're talking about them because they're working. So guess what, miss? And I said, what? And he said, the cartels are paying more money now because y'all have those balloons. So apparently they're working and people in the prisons are even talking about them, which, is funny but not funny because that's really sad that you have a 17-year-old sitting in there and telling me that, at the prison, that's what they're talking about when they get together and have breakfast or what have you. So last week, Melissa Correo from Channel 5 ran a story about the aerostats. We have 5 currently. They're operating within the Rio Grande Valley. And what they do is, there's a huge misconception. People think, oh my God, they can see through walls and things. No, they can't do that. But what they can do is just keep a close eye on the border and what's happening. So we do have a lot of video that we get to see. Unfortunately, the general public doesn't, but we get to see it. And it shows us where we're weak and where we need to be stronger, where we need to put people, what areas we need to be patrolling, because any time that camera catches movement, whether it's an animal or people, it has a sensor and it's going to start recording. And we get to see all those recordings. They're working, they're effective, they're expensive, and we're borrowing them, so to speak, from the Department of Defense.
Excellent. Great questions. Thank you, San Benito. Any other schools have some questions for us?
Yes, Mr. McKinney. Livia has a question.
Awesome. Go right ahead.
Hi, Ms. Chapa. One has a question in relation to, you had mentioned that there are some juveniles, that the drug cartels are recruiting juveniles to pass drugs. So he has a question in regards to this.
Okay.
Say they caught a kid from Mexico transporting drugs. What would they do to him?
So we catch a kid from Mexico and he's transporting drugs.
Yeah, but he's a teenager. Like it's say 12 or 13.
12 or 13? In many cases, where am I looking? What school is this?
It says Jessica, and that's Livia. It's Ms. Trevino's class.
Oh, so he moved.
There.
Okay, he moved out of the shot. He's wearing red. Okay, I got you.
He went by the microphone, I guess.
So the question is, we have a 12-year-old from Mexico, and he is the mule carrying the drugs in,
Yes.
right? That's the question. So what happens with him is he comes in, they apprehend him in the field, bring him over to the station. They start asking him questions. They get a lot of intel about him. Is he carrying a cell phone? Does he have any ties to a specific cartel? A lot of times they will refuse to answer any of these questions, and they'll even say, that backpack wasn't mine. I don't know what you're talking about. So he'll go before, he'll be held in a specific detention center, and then he'll go before a judge. But again, because of his age in the past, you had a lot of people who were just sent back to Mexico. Nowadays, things are changing. There are more repercussions that these kids are facing. We work primarily with the sheriff's department to follow through on each case, and then the sheriff's department works with the local judges. A lot of the kids that are caught again and again do, sometimes the Mexican government says they do spend time in their jails. Sometimes we keep them here. Do you realize, and we'd have to get the number from the sheriff, but how many people that we hold in our detention center, the juvenile detention center in Edinburgh and in the prison for Hidalgo County, are illegal? I mean, the numbers are great. It's unbelievable how many people we're holding. So they could be held there until they go to court, because if we let them go, one, they're going to go back to Mexico, or two, they'll never show back up for their court dates. And we have a better relationship now with Jesse Contreras. He is the Hidalgo County district judge who handles all the juvenile cases. So again, back to Detour, not because I keep pushing it, because I do want you guys to see it, and I'd like your opinions. I want to know what you have to say after watching the video. He's featured in that video, and he talks about the life of crime for a teen and whether you want to choose the life you have now or get involved with these smuggling organizations. So, every case is different, but I think now that the government is trying to be more stringent on people, no matter what country you're coming in from. If you are smuggling drugs, you're going to get apprehended. And it doesn't matter that you're here in Texas, you'll still be held in the detention centers.
Well, would they be held for like a long time or just for a certain amount of time?
Again, you'd have to get those questions, that one answered by, the judge, because remember, they could hold you for 6 months until you get your time in court. And then at that point, the judge determines, well, we're going to do this, this, and this to you, and you're definitely going back. I don't know for sure. I mean, we could find out for you and give that answer to Mr. McKinney and get it back to you, just to get examples for you. But that's also something that, we were Googling for this project for Detour, because I wanted to see how many of these kids are actually going to the detention center, and then what is the punishment. So we're still researching all of that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Livia. We have Santa Maria ready to go. I see someone standing. You want to introduce yourself and state your question, sir?
Santa Maria, and I want to know how many incoming Border Patrol agents you have because of the crisis on the border.
Actually, the crisis on the border is over. In September, I want to say from April to August, it was rough. It was very rough for the agents. And we detailed in about 300 agents to offset everything that was happening, because you needed the agents to work in the detention center and process these people, find out where they're from, and then get them to specific homes, which we needed other agencies' help with. And now that the crisis has ended, we're back to normal. We've got the 3,500 agents that are working, and we have no more agents detailed in. We had agents detailed in from El Paso, from Tucson, San Diego, Laredo, and right now we're running at the normal operations, which is 3,500 agents.
Thank you.
Good question.
We have a question from North.
Okay.
Do you still do Operation Detour presentations at the high schools, or is that still possible?
Are we scheduling them?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, hang on. We can schedule them. We have, let me see if this fellow will answer his phone.
Hello.
Hey, Greg, can you and Joe Gutierrez come in real quick?
Okay.
Thank you. I think I have it in front of me, but we kicked it off last week at Economides. Now, this is entirely different from the first Detour that we kicked off in 2010. This one we've revamped, and we have 27 days to get another video ready that's going to go with the one that we're already showing in the schools. But we kicked it off at Economides. All their kids, freshmen through seniors, have already seen it. And then it was on the news. So hopefully if you get a chance, you can watch some of the reports that aired about it. Tomorrow, we're going to be at San Benito High School and the Roma Alternative Center. Did you know that at the Alternative Center in Roma, this is so sad, they have 12 students there who are sixth graders at the Alternative Center that's built for freshmen through seniors who've already been caught for human smuggling, and they want us to show the video. I mean, the kids probably know more about it than we do, but we're going to go out there and we're going to show the video. The two agents that are walking in right now are Greg Aldaya and Greg, Joe, can you move over a little bit, darling? And this is Joe Gutierrez, and they're leading the program for Operation Detour. These are students from throughout the Rio Grande Valley, and asking questions related to our jobs.
Okay.
So Joe is from Roma, and I'm really proud of that because he's going to go back and present to the high school, the Alternative Center, and the junior highs. And then Greg is an agent out of the Weslaco area who helps us lead the Head of the Class program, the scholarship program, and the Youth of the Year. So they were asking how we can schedule PSJ high schools. Have we heard from them yet?
I think we're in the process of scheduling right now. So we've reached out to them. We just haven't heard anything back yet.
Who's your counselor out there that we could reach out to?
Well, our CTE coordinator would be Cesar Garcia.
Cesar Garcia. What's CTE?
It's a career, technology, and education.
Career, technology, education. Cesar, last name?
Garcia. Cesar Garcia.
All right, so we're going to give him a call, right, Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
He coordinates with all the PSJ high schools in the criminal justice department.
Okay, well, if you have a number for him offhand, I'd love to have it. Joe's right here. He can call him right now. And what was your name?
My name is Marco Pisania. I'm the criminal justice teacher here at PSJ North.
Awesome. I mean, we'd love to come over today if you want us there. We can send an agent over right after this.
I will put it right now in the chat. I'll type it in his phone number.
Okay, that sounds fantastic, and we'll get the agents. While they're in here, did any of you guys have a question for them?
Yes, Ms. Chapa?
Yes.
Yeah, could we get some information on that information that the PSG was getting on?
Absolutely. Who am I speaking with now?
Jessica Trevino from Levia High School.
Jessica Trevino at Levia High School. Gentlemen, if you'll please give her a call. Do you want to give your number now or no?
I'll call back later.
Okay, well, here's the number you can call. 289.
289?
Joe, what's yours? Let me look at Joe's because I always send everybody to Greg all the time. Joe Gutierrez is 4845. 289-4845 to schedule your presentations.
Okay, great. So much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, guys. I really hope that we can, you as students, you tell your counselors about this presentation so that we can go out there and show it to you guys. That would really be helpful for us. Any other questions for the agents?
Miss Lucio, go ahead. I unmuted. Go ahead. This is San Benito High School.
Yes. Hi, my name is Lizette Lucio. I'm a criminal justice teacher here at San Benito High School. And in my background, I was a juvenile probation officer. And so we would pick up some of these children that you're talking about. And it got to the point that some of these kids would do it over and over to the point where they wouldn't pay them anymore. And they would ask for a recibo, the receipt. And if they don't have it, then they would, it was either a life or death situation for them. And they would say, me van a dar el recibo, right? And we're talking between, 12-year-olds to about 16-year-olds. And this is my question for the officers. How often do you pick up those children that are doing the human smuggling and the drug smuggling?
How often what now?
Do we pick up the children, like juveniles that are actually involved, the mules that are moving the drugs? I mean, would you say that it happens every day? I
work out of Alfurias, Texas, so for us, it's not uncommon. You know, there is a lot of misconceptions in the cartels will tell these kids that if you do these type of drugs, you're not going to get prosecuted. But we had the media rollout in Edinburgh. The district attorney was there, and he said, if you guys get arrested for narcotic smuggling or human smuggling, we're going to certify you as an adult. We're going to prosecute you. And that's a misconception these cartels are telling all these kids. But the truth of the reality is they're going to have that in their criminal history. So whenever they try to get jobs later on in the future, they're going to be tarnished by that. So we do see it very often. It's not something that that's rare. You know, more and more, you know, these cartels are having that misconception and telling the kids, you know, you won't get arrested. Yeah.
Good answer. Thank you.
That's really neat. So you are in San Benito right now.
And you don't even get paid anymore. We just have to.
I'm sorry, I missed
You got
that.
cut off the very last part, Miss Lucy.
Oh, I asked, the children say that they don't get paid anymore at some point, and it's a life or death situation for them. They either do it or they don't do it, but it's not a choice at some point when they're that far in with the cartel.
That's correct. Sometimes whenever they get involved with the cartels, a lot of them, once they get involved and they start moving product for them, they don't have the choice of quitting. They're in their pocket. So they tell them, if you don't move these loads for us, we're going to go after your family. And whenever that happens, you're forced to basically move that for them and be involved in the criminal underworld that they're part of.
Thank you.
Super sad. Thank you.
So we hope to see you, Miss Lucio, in San Benito. You said San Benito, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, hopefully when we're presenting there, we're going to be there tomorrow, right, Joe? The 14th?
Yes.
At 10:30. So, Miss Lucio, hopefully you'll get an opportunity to meet our agents who are going to be there.
Excellent. Santa Maria is ready for a question. Oh, let me let her just finish out the San Benito.
I think you said you were going to the alternative center, or are you coming to the high school?
No, we're coming to the high school tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. That'd be perfect. Yes, thank you.
And so who are we presenting to at the high school? All of the kids or just one class?
I think it's 3 or 4 classes.
Oh, it's 3 or 4 classes, Miss Lucio. So hopefully if you want us there, definitely reach out to Joe and let us know. Okay, I'm sorry. Next question.
Hi, ma'am. My name's Mariana Araujo, and I would like to know what the ratio between men and women in the Border Patrol is.
Oh, my goodness. That's a good question. I think here at RGB Sector, I would say that, are you talking about agents? Because agents, I would say that the ratio is probably 93% men, 7% female. Yeah. It's very low. And nationwide, I think it's maybe 10% female and 90% men. It's a tough job. I mean, it's, I, for one, as a civilian employee, I don't know how the female agents, we have an agent here named Isaac Villegas who works out of Wesco. His wife was a nurse and then loved the fact that he'd come home and tell all these stories. And so she went to the academy and became an agent. And I'm thinking, really? And she's a tiny little thing. She's tough, but she's tiny. And I see her and I think, oh my goodness, I didn't even know they would make uniforms that size. She's so tiny, but she's a tough cookie and she goes out there and does her job. And, I'm really proud of her. I think she's adorable, but at the same time, that, to me, just my opinion, to any woman who's out there protecting our front lines, my hat's off to them, because you wouldn't find me out there. I'd much rather be at the mall.
Yeah, the standards are the same for women, and the standards are the same. So, the run, the push-ups, the sit-ups, they have to do the exact same as men. Unlike, the military where they have, different skills.
Protocols and guidelines for women. Yeah. It is a tough job out there, I will tell you. And late at night and when, everything else is, we're all home, secured in our homes, and they're out there. It's not a fun place to be. And it can be very scary.
Thank you for that question.
Are you actually thinking about a career in law enforcement where you would be out there being an agent?
Yes.
That's awesome. And we could probably, is there any female agents here? Shannon.
Yeah, Shannon and Augusta.
Oh yeah, call in Veronica. You know what? Stay right there. We're going to call Veronica in. Now Veronica is, oh my goodness, she is such a great lady. She came to us, I want to say she grew up here in the Valley, right, Joe? Mm-hmm. And she has been in at least 10 years now. So I'm going to call her over so you can meet her. She's out of our Brownsville station and has done a tremendous job working on educational programs, but also working the field. As a Border Patrol agent in general, you do get opportunities to work in different shops. Like say Joe, he could have had the opportunity to become a canine agent and work with a dog, or he could have gone out to the horse patrol or work the ATVs. But there's different opportunities for these agents, and sometimes they get opportunities to come and work admin positions like here at the communications division. This is Veronica Valdez. She's a supervisor. And so her question is geared more for you because of the fact that you're a female agent. And so she just wants to know what your job is like.
Which part? I have many jobs. First and foremost, I'm a Border Patrol agent, so I have my job as a Border Patrol agent. Currently, I am the supervisor over the Field Communications Branch, which oversees all of the internal and external messaging, videos, flyers, stuff like that.
Would you recommend that she become an agent?
Most definite. This job, coming into this job, I had no prior law enforcement or military background, whether myself or family, so this job has been an adventure from the beginning. I didn't have much of a, even being here from the border town, I didn't have much of a Border Patrol, knowledge of what it is entailed, but it's an adventure. And the best part about this job is there's different aspects of a Border Patrol agent. I mean, look at right now, I'm in an office dealing with charity, I'm dealing with video, I'm dealing with messaging, and I'm still
dealing with me.
I'm still wearing the uniform, and at any moment I can still be deployed out in the field. That's the best part.
Yes.
So you get to dictate what line of being a Border Patrol agent you're following, whether it's out in the field, whether it's up in headquarters in our main headquarters dealing with other aspects of this job, whether it's community service like Mr. Gutierrez and Mr. Aldaya partake in, going to the schools, and whether it's Red Ribbon Week, Operation Detour, there's different aspects that you can actually partake in as a Border Patrol agent. And putting on this uniform, it's a lot of pride and a lot of responsibility that I take very seriously on a daily basis.
Were you ever scared, though, to go out there, like at night, patrolling the river area?
Actually, no. My mom and my grandmother were constantly asking, and I tried not to talk about work when I would come home because I didn't want them to worry. I don't really think about things that could happen because in reality, and it can happen at home. Someone can come into your house and break the door thinking that you're involved with some entity and you're just a regular resident and, wrong place, wrong time. I think because of the gun, because of the training that I received at the academy, I'm prepared for this job. I mean, as much as anyone can be prepared. And as long as I keep that in mind, I don't worry about what could happen.
Awesome. Thank you. Real quick before we jump, I know somebody has another question. There's a San Benito class that doesn't have any audio from Ms. Trevino. And it's actually to you, Ms. Irma Chapa. What is it like being in charge of a job where the majority of the people are men? So it's kind of a stem from that previous question. So in your capacity, how is it working with 93% male population?
That's a great question. I think that being a Hispanic female and in the Valley, you have so many opportunities. I think to be considered up there with all of the males, you have to maintain your game. You have to ensure that you're on top of every single situation. You have to stay up with what's in the news, who's leading which organization now, specifically in this job. And you have to hold your own. You have to have confidence. You have to be willing to take a lot of the puns that females will get for leading a specific division. But I think that I've shown that I'm a hard worker, and I wouldn't be here if the opportunity didn't exist to allow someone like me and many of you who are out there watching who want to lead federal agencies one day. I mean, this is a dream come true for me. And the fact that it's happening means that in 10 and 20 more years, you're going to be able to do it too. But respect is huge. Chain of command is even bigger. And so you have to remember where you're coming from and how you treat people. Because if you lose sight of that, you'll never get anywhere. And I think that you have to be open to criticism as well, because not everybody is always going to be happy with the decisions that you make, but you have to own whatever decision you're making. And so my advice to, and what I feel is, happening in my life right now, I think that you need to be thankful to God. Number one, you need to always remember who you're being respectful to, and you need to always put family first. Although your job's going to be your priority, you have to remember that your employees too have families. So I think I have the most wonderful job ever. Would I still love to be working at Valley Baptist? Absolutely. And I'll tell you here and now, I was fired from that job. There's going to be rocky moments in your career, and there's going to be highlights in your career. And all along the way, you have to remain positive, because if you don't, it's like taking the right road with your attitude. Not only are you going to take the right road with things you're doing in your life with Operation Detour, but you also have to control your emotions, and you have to know that in the end, we make fun here of my deputy who says at the end of the day all the time, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that you are in control of your life. So as far as jobs go, as far as the decisions you make at home, you're in control, and you can either think of life as the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. And for me, my glass is always full, but it's taking a moment to appreciate, taking a moment to accept the invitation from Mr. McKinney to be able to speak to you guys about opportunities. And so I'd say it's challenging. The answer to your question is challenging to work with so many men, but at the same time, it's the most fulfilling job I think I've ever had.
I have a question for Ms. Morales.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Morales, when you were at the academy and you had to push 100 push-ups or you had to run the 8 miles, and what kept you motivated to keep going when you didn't know that you could physically do that and mentally do that? What prepared you for the next day? And are you coming tomorrow to San Benito?
Well, what kept me motivated is I was raised with, you always give 110%, you know, and you only you know what that is. Today you may be able to run a mile, tomorrow maybe 2 miles, or vice versa. At the academy, every day was always a challenge when it came to the physical part. You really didn't know what they were going to have you do, whether you were going to run 5 to 10 miles or if you were going to be in the mat room doing, we ended up doing 500 bodybuilders. And that's a combination of you're standing up, you drop down, do a push-up, get back up. And we did 500 of those because our instructor wanted us to have bragging rights with our class number. What kept me going is, one day I just realized, you said, no matter what we have to do, whether it's running or cardio workout in the mat room, they can't hurt me. You know, I'm going to give until I can't give anymore. I don't know what that is today, but I'm going to give until I can't give anymore. So my motivation was, they can yell at me, they can run me to death, they can cardio workout me until I can't pick up my arms anymore, but I'm only going to be able to give what I can. So that was my motivation. And at the same time, growing up, my parents instilled, you know, you give and you give. You're not a quitter, and, you know, you always give 100%. So I'd have my mom and my dad in the background. Just keep trying. All you can do is do your best. That's all you can do. So that was my motivation.
Thank you.
Now, San Benito, I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'd like to see you here.
We'll try to work that out.
Excuse me. Ms. Chapa.
Yes.
Yes, here from Wesco High School. We had a couple of questions in regards to the technology that Border Patrol is using, because the criminal effect is always going to be there. What my students wanted to know was a 2-part question. What technology is Border Patrol implementing other than drones, things like that we've heard about in the news, to help that criminal activity get lowered? And since you are a supervisor, you said at the communication center, correct?
Yes. Yes, but there's 2 different communications that we're talking about. So we have a communications division that deals with comms, radios, and all that technology. That's me. I'm communications internal and external. So internal messaging to all the agents, say about diseases, communicable diseases, retirements, benefits. We message to the agents through the IDS system, which is the information display system. We also have an internal newscast. And so we have a lot of interesting things that we provide to the agents. And then we also deal with the media. This shop does. So we have internal, external. External also deals with the community events and red ribbon presentations and so forth. Border community liaison meetings, ranch owner meetings. A lot of people don't know this, but if you have land along the border, our border community liaison agents at our stations have monthly meetings with the ranchers to hear their concerns every month about what's going on operations wise. So that's kind of a tricky question. I think your question is more focused on comms, on the cameras that we have set up out on the river and so forth, correct?
Correct, ma'am. The reason I was asking is because I do have a class where I certify the students for 911 operation systems, like local police departments have dispatchers, things like that. And I'm trying to motivate my students to apply with these major agencies, even federal agencies. Once having this certification, I'm sure it'll give them a leg up over other applicants and have them, work with simulators and things like that to eventually, like what I wanted to do is get a job at an early age and get into the agencies at a younger age than they possibly could later on in life.
We should get you together with Greg Aldaya, the fellow who was in here a minute ago, and we should do a field trip to the comm center at the annex, which is right next to the airport. So if you wanted to set that up, we could definitely do that. Again, the number is 289-4998. We've never done it, but it's a darn good idea, and I think that we should do that.
Okay, sounds great.
A small group of students to kind of show them how comms works. The job title that you're looking for is, we call them LECAs, and they're law enforcement communication analysts, correct? And so those are the folks who are out there listening to every single thing that is happening on the river. So we send an agent out, say Veronica gets a call out, and she goes out. As soon as she arrives, she's telling that person on the line, they're getting back with the supervisors at the station. If DPS needs to be involved, if say HIDA, the high intensity drug task force, is working a specific case and they're already out there and we go, then we all start communicating in with their radio systems and their dispatchers. Now, we can't give away everything to the community. That's why I'm saying a small group of students coming through there would be a good idea. I've never requested it, so I think that it would happen. I think that we have a good chance of it happening because we don't usually do that. But it's definitely worth. And then for those of you on the Cameron County side, and we're moving towards this, we've got a lot of high-end technology that would be harder to get a student group. Usually at the college level, occasionally we'll have tours to the Border Patrol Center, but it's called the RVSS is the Remote Video Surveillance System, and those are cameras that are set up all along the border. And so you walk in, and you actually think that you're walking into some kind of news. If you've ever visited Channel 4 or 5, and you've got all the screens everywhere, and they've got it like on the different channels and what's happening in the studio and with the weatherman, it's sort of like that. And you're just watching the river and watching everything that's happening. And so it's really an interesting aspect that people don't think that we're that high end, but we actually are. Does it need to be updated? Absolutely. It's just like when you're building a comms division within your schools and you've got these cameras that you've had there since, your older brother graduated. Everything has a budget, everything has planning, and you have people here that are always thinking, okay, in 4 more years, we're going to need new cameras to work those specific areas. So it's too bad you can't see that. I think that'd be a lot harder, but definitely going over and checking out comms would be a fun day.
Definitely. And who would be my point of contact again?
Greg Aldaya. I had him walk in here, and we could submit the request. Send him an email to gregory.aldaya, ALDAYA, @DHS.gov, and we'll see if we can't push that through.
Okay, can you give me a second? My secretary's taking a little long to copy that down. And we have officers out here. We try to set it up that way. Did you get it, Bianca?
Forgive me for asking. Are you a student or are you the teacher?
I'm the teacher, ma'am.
Okay, because you look very young, which is a compliment. Yeah.
Thank you. We're doing the 911 for the reason that I used to be a dispatcher in McAllen Police Department. I remember working when I was 18 there. A lot of interagency communication between Border Patrol and McAllen PD. Even getting the helicopter out there, Omaha, assisting us with different calls. And like I tell my students, I wish I would know what I know now back then. So that's what I'm trying to get.
I think
all the information possible.
That's a fantastic opportunity. You should call Victor Rodriguez too, and then go see him after the.
We tried. We were supposed to have a field trip yesterday, but they needed the training facility for something, so they canceled our trip. So that's why. He called me personally, and he reminded me of that. So hopefully we'll get a trip to McAllen PD, and hopefully with you guys we can go out and see that comm center. It would the kids would appreciate it, and they would learn a lot from it.
Oh, depending on how many kids, maybe we can go over to the Office of Air and Marine that same day, and we could set that up with Mr. Durham. And that way, because a lot of people, there's a big misconception that the Border Patrol has helicopters, and we don't. We work with the Office of Air and Marine, and it would be nice to go check out their communication system as well that man all of the folks who are on the river and in the air. So,
Okay.
and they're right next door to each other near the airport. So let's get togetry on that.
Sounds good, man. Did you get the?
Gregory.m.
Oh, Gregory, GREGORY.Aldaya, ALDAYA at DHS as in Department of Homeland Security.gov. Oh, you have a middle initial.
Secretary, you gotta.
I'm sorry, there's a .m in between there. Gregory.m.Aldaya.
All right, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get in touch also with Mr. McKinney. Maybe he can get me that because my secretary is a little slow on that, but we'll work around that. Come on,
Well,
guys.
again, how about you just call him directly? And that's really easy, 289-4998.
4998. Sounds good.
That's correct. Okay.
Thanks, ma'am.
Of course.
We have a question in San Benito High School.
Okay.
My name is Christopher Badilla. I'm from San Diego High School, and I wanted to know how long the academy is for the Border Patrol.
55 days. Well, it's changed since I went through. We've broken it down. It starts off with the first 55 days. That's not including weekends or holidays. It's 55 work days. And you get to do the law, the driving, the firearms, the physical training portion. And then if you're fluent in Spanish, and we have a test in the very first week that you take to see what level of fluency you are. If you're fluent after those 55 days, you're done and you report to your station. If you are below that standard, then you have an additional, 30 days? 33 days? An additional 33 days, once again, work days, not including weekends or holidays, that you would stay on, and it would just be completely Spanish.
What is the average time for to get to the academy?
See, and that varies. If we're trying to go through the expedited processing, it can go anywhere from 6 months
to a year.
And that's counting from when you first sign up to take the test, and then everything else in between until they call you, because you have to do an oral interview, you have to get a drug test. There's a actual physical training they test you. You have to do so many push-ups, so many sit-ups, have to be able to run 2 miles in a certain amount of time. And if you have to pass every aspect of that. And so there's scheduling, and that could, depending on when you start the process, that could delay how long it takes for you to finish. So it can be anywhere between 6 months to a year from when you first take the test to when they call you to offer you the job.
And is there any work history required, or?
If you are a graduate from high school, then you need to have 1 year of working in a job experience. College is not mandatory, but it is encouraged, and a minimum 2 years of that. If you are prior military, you don't need any college. That counts in your favor. But prior military, it counts in your favor that you don't have any college college degree. You start off at a higher pay rate than if you had no college degree, which is why I say it's not mandatory, but it's highly encouraged.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There's so many opportunities, you guys, once you are in, to move not only within our agency and do different things, but also with other agencies. We detail agents out to the FBI, to DEA, to the HIDTA task force. Where else, guys?
NRC.
The NRC, which is the National Recruiting Center. Internationally, they're always asking for agents to go and work in Afghanistan and Costa Rica, different places. And so you could become a pilot after. There's a lot of the pilots that work for the Office of Air and Marine that were Border Patrol agents at one time. And so, the people who run these agencies recognize the fact that you've got this law enforcement experience, and then you'll be one step ahead in your career to heaven knows where. I mean, there's, and then as the civilian side of this, if you haven't already, you should write this down, usajobs.gov. There are so many jobs that you'll be surprised that are government jobs that will take you anywhere throughout the nation. And there's a lot of opportunities. Had I known about that when I was working at Channel 4 back in the day, I probably would have put in for a job in public relations many moons ago. And it's exciting. It's fun. There's a lot of opportunity to move and to travel. So you really need to keep those jobs in mind. San Benito, have a question?
Yeah. What's the biggest group of people you've had to deal with, illegal people?
So you're asking out in the field, what is probably the biggest group that has come over at one time?
Yes.
Okay, so during the summer, when we had the crisis happening, I think McAllen was hit hardest. And I think I heard of a group of 220 people at one time. So we had people from Fish and Wildlife out there. We had people from DPS. And at that time in the summer, people were just coming over and saying, I'm here, take me in. Because it was an odd situation where people thought they're going to come over, they're going to be set free, and they're not going to be held anywhere. And so you had a lot of people just taking the journey of anywhere from 8 to 13 days and coming over from, a majority of the people were coming from Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. So they had it in their mind that they were just going to be set free here because they already had family members here. And the idea is, the law is that you're here, you get apprehended, and then ICE puts you in a holding facility, and then you go before a judge. But again, all Border Patrol does is apprehend. What happens after that is in the hands of other agencies. So for us this summer, the biggest group at one time was 220.
How close do you, or how often, or do you actually have to work with Fish and Game, like the wildlife protection?
We work with all the agencies that work operations along the river. I mean, every single law enforcement agency, and we meet regularly. DPS does a great job at coordinating. Aren't you guys going to speak with a DPS trooper this afternoon? They do a fantastic job of coordinating and messaging communications with all the other agencies. And we have an agent detailed there as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I can't hear you, Mr. McKinney, but I think we're breaking now.
Are you right? I muted. Okay. I had muted myself because I was in and out.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, everybody. The classes look like some of their classes are finishing up anyway. We went long, but I appreciate that you answered all their questions and then some. Ms. Irma Chapa, you've been great, and I appreciate sharing your phone numbers out and bringing your agents in and directly answering the questions that these students have. Again, this is a recorded session, so I will get these links out to those that are interested. And I can't thank you enough for participating with over 10, 11 different classrooms from all across the valley.
We're happy to help anytime. Thank you so much, and thanks for what you do.
Thank you very much. Okay, y'all have a great day. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.